Ladies and gentlemen, and good evening, friends. The minister is on his way. In about 8 to 10 minutes' time, we will be starting this session. Kindly be seated. And after that, we are going to have a nice time with the minister. Good interaction. Thank you very much. And the flow of events in this evening would be, we'll begin with the minister's opening remarks, followed by a presentation on various initiatives being taken in the energy sector. Thereafter, we will open it for the question and answer with the investors, and I'm sure media is also present here. Later on, with the permission of the minister, we'll take questions from media as well, and this will be
first from the investors.
First from the investors. That's why that's what I said, sir. And sir, this is a packed house today. We have got in this investors meet the FIIs, the mutual funds, the private equities are present, analysts from the power sector, sovereign wealth fund investors, insurance, and power sector PSUs are also there. So this being the event, it's not for me to take much of your time. I would hand over the mic to our Honorable Minister, because as you all know, our Minister is not only a man of action, he has also been one of the finest communicators. It's over to you, sir, please.
Haven't you heard that about ministers before? It's the usual sentence that is always said. Thank you very much for such a large turnout at such a short notice. Presentation fleshing out more details of what Uday is all about. Why is it different from whatever happened in the past? Why it cannot fail this time around? Why the naysayers who keep saying, well, we've heard this before, we've had a 2002 package, we've had a 2012 package, 12 or 13, I don't know, because there's a package which went on for 12 or 15 months before it was even implemented. And the holistic nature of this entire Ujjwal Discom Assurance Yojana could not be brought out in any press note, in any write-up, or in any way without a personal interaction, without an ability for people to ask me questions, grill me if I may, and I'm open to that. But I can reassure each one of you that this is something which has come out of nearly 8 or 9 months of very, very serious introspection about what's happened in the sector, deliberations about what is feasible, political working on this. I've consulted with banks extensively at every level and in a series of meetings with bankers. I've had the privilege of consultation with tax experts, with investment bankers, with bureaucrats from different ministries, retired experts in the power sector, consulted with the public sector companies a lot. And then I've had a series of discussions with state governments, with chief ministers, chief secretaries, power secretaries, and most importantly, the finance secretaries of states, who have a lot to say on the scheme. By and large, it's had pan-India acceptance. No state to date has rejected our proposals or has said we will not come under Uday. So I am fairly confident in the managing director of some of the important stakeholders in this story, so that after the presentation and questions, you are free to interact with them and ask them any questions you would like and confirm from them the ability of India to achieve these objectives. So I'll just call out some of the names, if you don't mind standing up so that they can see you, and then interact with you over tea after this. Mr. Jha, Chairman and Managing Director of NTPC Limited, the nation's largest power generator, producer, a big stakeholder in the renewable energy program going forward. Mr. Jha again, Chairman and Managing Director of Power Grid Corporation of India Limited. He has his job cut out. They've done some outstanding work in the last 18 months, getting power to remote areas of the country, expediting transmission lines which were stalled for 10 years in a short span of time. Will be available for any questions, any clarifications. Mr. Popley is the Chairman and Managing Director of IREDA, the Renewable Energy Development Agency. And later in the day, I'll tell you some outstanding who have all come here on the auspicious occasion of Dhanteras. And I extend my greetings to you and your family on behalf of my Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi, my own personal behalf, and on behalf of all of us in Team India working towards an empowered India going forward, save and accept a few setbacks along the way. But truly grateful to all of you who have helped to put together the investor community. I hope today's message goes to the whole big wide world, and we can once again rejuvenate the Indian economy.
For their growth and development. So with power for all, 24/7 power for all as our central motto, we are touching a variety of things alongside. So whether it is starting with climate change, as you know, we have set very ambitious renewable energy targets, 175 gigawatt by 2022. You have recently seen the INDC targets where India has taken a lead and has even bettered most of the developed countries in the world. Uday as well as our initiatives around Power for All will impact climate change, will impact Make in India. We are looking at investments of more than $250 billion in the three sectors put together, and it will have substantial local manufacturing. We will talk about the potential for that as we go forward. In terms of Swachh Bharat, few of you may know that every single government school in India now has separate toilets for boys and girls. That has been achieved over the last 1 year, that is post the announcement on 15th August by the Honorable Prime Minister, 15 August 2014 to 2015 is when more than 4 lakh toilets were constructed, and about 1.28 lakh toilets were constructed just by the three ministries of power, coal and renewable energy. The target was 1.21 lakh, and we exceeded that within the time period given to us, and that is showcased in every single thing the ministries do. There are a number of energy efficient lighting, as well as energy security with coal as our base fuel and renewables, ambitious renewable targets. We're looking at energy security for the nation, as well as security for at a household level, at a state level, with 100% rural electrification, ensuring that every village household also gets 24/7 power. Looking at over, since independence, how have reforms panned out? So there was this initial, within a decade or two of independence, there were a number of reforms around Electricity Supply Act, which came in 48, as well as understate, the commanding heights were primarily understate. So a number of distribution and state utilities were set up under state ownership. Post 91, there was this liberalization era, which meant private sector participation started. I'm sure many of you invested in few of the early generation companies, private generation companies which came in. Electricity Regulatory Commissions Act set up SERCs and CERC in 1998, as well as the landmark Electricity Act 2003, which really opened up the sector. Over the last 18 months, we have tried to accelerate this growth trajectory significantly, but the underlying problem was that there was not enough coal. Once you have enough coal, then many plants can get sufficient coal. So the root cause analysis is very critical. You have to get deeper into the problem to solve it. Otherwise, you will, at a superficial level, you can be misled. Accountability, something you will see is very integral part of Uday. When we talk about Uday's targets, we talk about at a specific circle level, who is the person responsible for reducing losses, what is the kind of support he will get, what will be his team, what kind of resources he will get, and with all that being given to him or her, there is accountability on that person to ensure that he or she delivers. And it is all a national effort, Team India all together. And everything we do is, we do it with a lot of speed. So Honorable Minister just spoke about the fact that Friday morning we decided that we are making this presentation to this large gathering, and everything came together within those 48 hours. So speed is very critical. Do it with skill and do it smartly. Prioritize, figure out what are the big roadblocks, focus on those, on clearing those. Achievement oriented, we want to achieve the maximum possible. The outcomes are very critical to us. So as you can see over the last year also, whether it is production, capacity increase, generation, achievements are very, very clearly the focus. Rejuvenate economic growth. We believe that ultimately it's not just about power, coal, and renewable energy sector. It is actually about the overall economy, of which these three ministries are a very, very critical pillar. And if we have, yes, we can for 77 crore. So again, I think when Philips first heard about the LED targets, they of course thought, I think that it was that the honorable minister was just joking, and he took it as a good laugh for the lunch. But today, when we have already distributed more than 2.4 crore LEDs in just the last 6 months, really, then when you go back to any LED manufacturer, then you're taken very seriously the numbers you're talking about. So some of the numbers even for Uday or some of other initiatives may seem very, very ambitious today. But with the Yes We Can spirit, we have done it and we will do it. So looking at the sector as a whole, the integrated value chain for the sector, we have tried to focus on various components of the value chain, starting from fuel supply. The coal story is very well known. Generation, with turnaround in many standard generation plants, as well as setup of new UMPPs. Generation remains a focus. Transmission, with almost 1 lakh crore of transmission lines being bid out, as well as expediting long delayed transmission lines. Transmission discount losses, they add up to 3.66 lakh crores, which is almost more than 90% of the accumulated losses of discoms till March 15. So you can see the reforms which were made in 2002-03, they really sustained themselves for till 2008-09. And beyond that, we saw the sector letting go and these losses really accumulating at an extremely rapid pace. And unfortunately, the interventions in 2012, the FRP, etc., could not really stem the losses significantly. And that is where we are today, with a very, very unsustainable discom sector. So Uday, Ujjwal Discom Assurance Yojana, or in Hindi, Ujjwal Discom Ashwasan Yojana, you can use the words you like, aims at a permanent resolution of discom issues, as opposed to either focusing on initiatives on the present of the next 2-3 years or only on the past. It's also looking at the future. So what are the components or the building blocks of Uday? Let me lay them down one by one. If you look at the past, the debt of discoms, of course, has risen to unsustainable levels. In fact, for certain discoms, interest cost is as high as 60% of their annual losses. And as many of you know, that inefficiencies of discoms cannot be passed on in terms of tariff. Tariff is on future bank lending to discoms. We have seen in previous programs like FRPs where there was a package given and then there was essentially indiscriminate bank lending to discoms. They were perceived as one of the most lucrative sources, targets to lend, partly because they were seen as with sovereign guarantee. And that is something which will also be contained going forward. And at the end of it, another big pillar is reduction in interest cost. As you know, discoms are borrowing today around 12% is the average cost of borrowing of discoms. We have discoms who are borrowing at 14-15% also. As opposed to that, if you look at the state's borrowing cost, if you look at the last auction of state development loans, RBI's last auction, most cannot pass on. Again, just borrowing another favorite example from yours, an inefficient motorcycle. You can build a motorcycle which is with a much more steel as well as a high-end cushion for the motorcycle and increase the cost by 30%. Can you ask your market, your consumer, to pay 30% more for that motorcycle? It just won't be possible. It's because if you have not been efficient while manufacturing the motorcycle, if you have increased your labor cost significantly, if you increase your material cost significantly to produce the same good, the market will not buy it just because you're selling it. And that same...
About reading this, and you'll be able to figure out which state does a tariff revision when. Andhra Pradesh, 14-15, they had an election in 2014. So you didn't find a tariff increase in 2014-15. But of course, Andhra Pradesh is an outstanding success story of a real fast turnaround of a discom, which we can discuss later. And the same will go down over the years. You'll find that recurring.
So this is something clearly which will help in the present, help discoms in the present over the next 2, 3, 14. These are audited numbers for 13-14. One of the lowest AT&C losses in the country in AP. Even Tamil Nadu is actually almost at national average of 22. West India, again, performing well below national average, mostly Goa, Maharashtra, Gujarat, all with low AT&C losses. East India, you will see a lot of variability. It is also one of the worst performing. As you can see, a lot of states will have high collection efficiency near, for example, AP, Gujarat, who have low AT&C losses. For them, the trajectory is lower. And if you combine the two, you're looking at Haryana comes out on the very top with a potential savings of 5,391 crores. And you can see if you go just 19, each of these we have estimated how much savings you will have, and if you quantify that by multiplying by the average cost of supply, you will get 45,000 crores is the savings from household LEDs as well as street lights. Agricultural pumps, about 2.1 crore agricultural pumps as of today. We are targeting 50% of them to be replaced, and these are typically not metered or built. So you will, any unit you save on agricultural consumption will lead to very high savings for the discom. Fans and air conditioners, significant.
So we rescaled the whole program and look at what economies of scale, better technical, all of them are on continuous text exchanges with me. He apologized that, sir, we haven't breached the 99 mark, but next time we'll do it. That was February, 11th of February. Next time, I got the proud SMS saying it's 82. Then we respect from 7 watts to 9 watts. All this time it was 7 watt bulbs. We increased it to 9 watt bulbs, and what we have now, I think it's 72.60 to be precise. The last procurement.
40.
For a 9 watt, 72.40. For a 9 watt bulb, not a 7 watt which was 310. That's what you can achieve if you do things honestly, transparently, with economies of scale, and sensibly. So one of the things which led to a drastic fall was government used to pay in 5 years the amount that each bulb cost. And I've had a series of interactions with the suppliers, and cost saved, the carbon dioxide saved. So as we speak right now, 25,265,526 bulbs have been distributed by ESL at this point of time, as we speak. That was the technology focus in the transparency, the principles. And this will change every 30 or 60 seconds as the bulbs keep getting distributed all over the place.
You can even click on your state to find out where to get the bulb from.
And then you can click on each city, you will know how many bulbs. So sadly, Mumbai, so if you click on Maharashtra, you'll get all the Maharashtra story. And sadly, we haven't been able to distribute or get Mumbai cracking because of some political problems with it's just started last few days. So only 78,274 bulbs in a city of the size of Mumbai. Probably less bulbs than what BKC uses. But they took about some time to resolve some problems or impediments that were put up by some politicians here, but that's got resolved fortunately, I hope.
So just in terms of just to give you a scale of what we're talking about in terms of installation, equipment installation, feeders and distribution transformers meters, which we are talking about 100% metering, 13 lakh units will be installed by 2017. 1 crore smart meters will be installed by 2017 and another 2.5 crore by 20.
So much increase in production. Power generation is also and demand is also increasing. But as we ramp up Coal India's production and all the NTPC mines, the private mines which are auctioned come out into the market, then you'll have a significant increase in thermal coal. Coking coal is still a challenge for India. We may need to continue to import coking coal. But my own sense is in the next 2.5 years, thermal coal import, save and except some of the coastal plants, if international coal prices remain very low, may find it viable to import coal. Otherwise, the rest can all be met domestically. And even for the thermal coastal plants, I'm looking at ways by which if we can move coal by inland waterways to Paradip from Orissa or those mines, move them by barges inland waterways to Paradip, expand Paradip or other ports over there to handle coal and ship them to coastal plants on the west coast or on the south. So we are working on more and more plans to reduce dependence on imported coal.
As well as more supply of domestic coal if it is met through your, as per the ACQ, which means lesser dependence on e-auction coal. So that again reduces your cost. Linkage rationalization, we have already seen examples. One of the most successful programs wherein coal was, for example, being imported into Gujarat, taken all the way to Korba, and Chhattisgarh coal used to come to Gujarat. So just by swapping the two, the obvious economic efficiency came through, and estimates are, as per the KPMG report, about 6,000 crore. 1,000 crore in the first phase has already been realized. The next is a new initiative wherein we are looking at liberally allowing coal swaps from inefficient plants to efficient plants. So as opposed to just saving the transportation cost, the plant efficiency also comes into play. And this may mean that, of course, plants situated away from the mines are able to transfer their linkage to pithead plants. The linkages also then don't need to be plant specific. In fact, they can be company specific, so they can move them around across their company. The savings are around 10,000 crore just on that, as well as two initiatives around correcting the tariff fixation. So number one, coal price rationalization based on GCV. As you know, some of the higher grades of tariffs, if you look at coal pricing, it is not linear. Some of the higher grades probably can be overpriced.
The undertakings in the ministries. This typical feeling that public sector companies can't do well. I, for one, stand educated and enlightened that it, and I always said it even when I was in opposition, that it doesn't, the nature of ownership of a company does not matter. It's leadership and vision that determines the success or failure of a company. So you've had enough failures in the private sector also. Many of you may have lost money in investments in the private sector also. But I can tell you, my three ministries have the finest set of officials, whether in the government, whether in undertakings, states, and they're all working together. So when I just flagged off this 1 billion ton, they got cracking on the job. And they've been relentlessly pursuing how they can keep expanding. 10 of which I've already opened. Between March and October, Western Coalfields Limited, which didn't open a single mine for a decade, has opened 10 mines in 10 months. And now will open one mine every month for the next 26 months, taking it to 36 new mines. And now they've reset their target from 60 million tons to 100 million tons. So you already got a 40 million ton addition on 908. Like that, each company is reworking what needs to be done to increase, to achieve not only a billion, but maybe better a billion. So, but we've been transparent about whatever we achieve, put it on the website, and we'll be held accountable. So you can ask us questions. All of us are accountable to you and to the people of India for whatever claims we are making or whatever targets and plans we are setting.
So the document can be, the link to the document is over here. You can copy it or you can go to the Coal Ministry site. It's
No, we are going to put up this website. It's money to be earned by increasing the coal production that we are getting outstanding support from the states. The railways don't have to put in much money. So they are happy to speed up the lines. And therefore we are much more confident today of completing these railway lines as per the targets we've set out.
100% crushed coal will be supplied from 1st April 2016. On transmission, Mr. Jha can elaborate, but essentially number of delayed transmission lines have been completed. We have actually kept the long-term requirement in mind while planning new lines. So till 2030, whatever is the requirement, we are factoring that in. Awards of works of about 1 lakh crore just before the end of this year. So again, a significant business opportunity, whether as a direct...
South India is the biggest sufferer of lack of transmission lines. One of the first things we got cracking was the lines to South India. And there were lines which were 10-year delayed. There were lines which were delayed.
This discrepancy, states shall take over 75% of DISCOM debt as on 30th September 2015. As you can notice, we have not kept the date of March 31st, 2015. We have actually kept it as close to today as possible because we don't want to leave a gap and make sure there is a continuous bridge available to DISCOM from where they are to an efficient DISCOM. And we have not even distinguished between various kind of debt. So whether it is short-term loans, long-term loans, bonds, any kind of debt taken by the DISCOM is eligible under the scheme. And as on this date, whatever is available with DISCOM, 50% will be taken over by the state in this year itself.
Would go into the 14th Finance Commission of Dr. Reddy. He has alluded to this in his report, that these states' attitude of parking their debt outside their balance sheet, outside the state's debt, has to be recognized as a part of the state debt. So this idea has been drawn from Dr. Reddy's 14th Finance Commission report. In fact, even in 2002, in the FRBM, the debt takeover was not considered as a part of the fiscal deficit. In any case, this is a illness which has accrued over several years. It doesn't make that state any more inefficient in that particular year. We are taking over a past liability. But the good news is that even after this entire takeover, assuming...
Looking at 10-year GSEC plus 50 basis for state bonds and another 25 basis for non-SLR status. That is what the cap is. If you look at the spreads of the last few RBI auctions, the spreads have actually been lower. So this should be pretty comfortable, but we have put an upper cap just in case.
If the market... Yeah, go back.
Yes.
Next. No, before that. If the market cannot absorb, I've been trying to make inquiries from friends in your marketplace. I'm finding that because there's surplus liquidity in the system, there is good appetite for these bonds. So most states should be encouraged to first offer it to the market. And then should there not be enough appetite for the entire amount, the banks will take it over without any additional stress because it's after all already loans in their books. So it's not as if there's any outflow of more funds. On the contrary, a good part of their funding will...
State, any bank, for example, which has given a loan to the DISCOM will have of 40,000 crores as on 30th September 2015. And 20,000 crore is being taken over in 15-16. Option A is the simpler option, which is whatever comes in, you give a corresponding grant to the DISCOM. In option B, you have given a 3-year period for giving the grant. So when 20,000 crore is taken over, 10,000 crore is transferred as grant. Half of the amount you're taking over is given as grant to the DISCOM, and the remaining half is given as loan to the DISCOM at the exact interest rate at which you will borrow. So for example, if the state is borrowing at 8%, it will give the loan to the DISCOM at 8%. It cannot give at 10% or 12%, which will essentially take us back to where we were. So focus is on efficiency.
This way the DISCOM balance sheet becomes much stronger with a much, much lower accumulated loss or accumulated interest burden on the loans. The DISCOM balance sheet not only improves, it also has now the loss reduction trajectory becomes fast. It's not only reduction of interest rate from 12, 13, 14 to 8%, it's also the 8% going into the state treasury. So let's say this, I think, is probably broadly where Haryana is, right? So Haryana in 16-17 will start making a profit at the end of this story. Just by doing this, Haryana will make a profit in 16-17 itself. And the additional burden on the Haryana state exchequer would be, even if you take, say, 30,000, all of it, 8% of 30,000 is about 2,500 crore. Right? That DISCOM today on 40,000 is paying 4,800 crores of interest. In this mechanism, that interest will, 2,400 will shift to the state, and the DISCOM will be left with about 900 crores of interest servicing. So 4,800 reduces to 900. Its current loss is 2,500 crores. It becomes a profit-making DISCOM, and suddenly the whole viability of that DISCOM changes.
Haryana, the interest cost is more than the loss of the DISCOM. So what happens to the 25% which remains with the DISCOM? So just to clarify, there are some residual FRP bonds which are still in the process of being taken over. They will of course be part of this scheme, and so that the states can take the maximum benefit. The debt which remains with the DISCOM will be converted into bonds. So again, DISCOMs will issue bonds. Now, if you look at the market pricing, what we have heard from many of you, from the bankers, is that typically the pricing is state bond plus another 20 basis for the DISCOM bond. And it is important to keep in mind that the DISCOM, the new DISCOM, is essentially a AAA rated entity.
State guarantee. You not mentioned that. This will be state guaranteed bonds, the balance 25%. The balance residual 25% remaining in the DISCOM will be state guaranteed DISCOM bonds in the market. So ultimately the state exchequer will guarantee that that bond will be paid on due dates. And I'm sure you're all aware, India sovereign or India states, and for that matter India PSUs, have never defaulted in any bonds in its history. India has never defaulted. RBI is the conscience keeper of the government's exchequer. And in that sense, since all devolution of funds moves through the Reserve Bank of India to the states, center to RBI to state, or borrowing powers are, limits are allowed by the RBI, they have the ability to ensure that servicing bonds gets priority. So India or any Indian state has never defaulted at any point of time in its history.
Essentially the auto debit mechanism, which is never used, but it's available to RBI to use. And we have again, based on discussions with banks, so of course we expect that DISCOMs will issue bonds, but we have also, when we talk about the banks themselves, if they, in case they are borrowing to the DISCOM, we are capping that rate at base rate plus 0.1%. That is what essentially has emerged from discussions with banks. So in the end, a commercial decision.
With a state government guarantee.
Yeah, with a state government guarantee for both of them. And needless to say, this is only available for state-owned DISCOMs, even DISCOMs which have combined generation and transmission and distribution functions. So Tamil Nadu, for example, has generation and transmission and distribution together. Kerala has all three together. It will not be available for private DISCOMs in Delhi or elsewhere. Also, if you look at the renewable market, one of the obstacles which was not allowing the market to develop as much as it could have been was there were significant number of RPOs which were left in the market. So essentially, many RECs were untraded in the market. They were essentially at the base price remaining in the exchanges. All the discounts who participate in Uday will also comply with their RPO obligations outstanding since 1st April 2012. This will be done in consultation with MOP, so of course we'll ensure that it's financially feasible for the discoms, but will clear a large number of RPOs, and it will give an impetus to clean energy markets. So it's a big boost again for renewable energy. And again, an example of how power, coal and renewable energy, new and renewable energy all work together. If going forward, how do we ensure that discoms don't borrow indiscriminately and again go back to their previous loss-making trajectory? So Ministry of Power will sign an MOU with each of the states as well as the discoms in the states, a tripartite agreement which will specify the loss reduction trajectory for each of these discoms. Any financing, loss financing for the discoms will only be
These Jammu Kashmir, some Naxal areas, but I'm not worried about the Maoist areas because Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh and Andhra Pradesh, Maharashtra, the 4 states affected by Maoism are by and large committed to making this happen. So I may have 3-4 states whose whole consumption of electricity will not even account for 3-4% of the national consumption.
Additionally, under the existing schemes, Deen Dayal Upadhyay Gram Jyoti Yojana as well as IPDS, we have additional funding available to states once they perform as per certain milestones, specifically 15% and 5% for special category and other states. So all of that will be available to states because this again will help them meet those qualifying criteria. Plus additional coal at notified prices, additional power, low-cost power with higher capacity utilization from NTPC as well as CPSUs. In the end, in the next 2-3 years, we are looking at 15% AT&C loss on an average by 18-19. Reduction in gap between ARR and ACS will disappear, and almost all the discoms will be profitable by 17-18, save a few, 3-4 as Honorable Minister mentioned. The MOUs will essentially govern and will be the operational document which will have details of the scheme. So between the Ministry of Power, state, and if there is single discom, otherwise multiple, it will clearly identify what each party is supposed to do. So for example, from the central government's Ministry of Power's perspective, in terms of supplying coal at notified prices, in terms of enabling coal swaps, linkage rationalization, etc., all of that will be listed down. What the state has to do in terms of financial takeover of the debt of discom, and discoms will have very, very specific targets. In fact, we have already developed a draft MOU with multiple states. Case in point being Rajasthan, where we have identified circle level targets for loss reduction, along with responsibility, along with resources required, team required, etc. And all the activities will be, operational activities will be detailed out in the MOU. So how does it benefit various stakeholders? What do you get out of Uday? As you mentioned, this resolves the weakest link in the power value chain. So a number of initiatives around 24/7 power, rural electrification, renewable energy will now be possible to meet because you will have at the center of the value chain somebody who is able to act to recover the revenues as well as distribute it across. So as you know, 5 crore households in the country are without electricity even today. So they will get power. Electrification of 18,500 villages has not happened even after 68 years of independence, and that is to be achieved over the next, the target for Ministry of Power is over the next 1,000 days. Energy security by primarily using coal as well as renewables. Current account deficit will improve with significant amount of diesel imports for power generation. They will be coming down. And overall investments in power sectors will improve, thus creating jobs. If you look at industry and consumers,
Important thing, there are so many stressed assets in the system. Today there are no PPAs in the market. No DISCOM has the ability to open new PPAs and buy power. So there is a very funny situation. You have people who want more power, but the state doesn't have the capacity to buy the power and give it to them. And the general mindset is more you buy, the more loss you incur. So that I expect to change with this. The understanding that if you buy more power and you efficiently serve it to the people, particularly the people who are buying it at or using diesel generators, just the telecom industry alone uses $2 billion worth of diesel for the 600,000 odd towers all across the country. So we are identifying specific areas. Gurgaon, it's rapidly grown and doesn't have the infrastructure to support more power. So I've taken that up on a mission mode with the Haryana government, how we can expand, and we are looking at an investment of $1.7 billion only in Gurgaon to upgrade that infrastructure and rid it from diesel generator sets and inverters. Make it like Mumbai, an island which is secure with 24/7 power. So we are working with a focus on where the results or the benefits can be captured quickly.
another example of lowering cost of power, if you look at a typical NTPC plant, and Mr. Jha can elaborate, a 3000 megawatt plant has a fixed cost of about 2.67 per unit if it is running at 60% PLF. It goes up to 90% PLF, then you are talking about reduction of about 87 paisa. So that's significant savings which will be passed on.
Have you shown them the NTPC full story? No.
So we have the overall.
You know, NTPC alone, just one company, when we are allowing them to swap coal, use coal at the most efficient plant, increase the PLF of efficient plants, shut down if required the inefficient plants and start replacing them, servicing them. With that entire liberal regime of coal availability, NTPC alone can bring down their cost of power by 35 paisa per unit. Now, a company which is making 250 billion units, the saving comes to $1.5 billion every year. And that straight away gets passed on to DISCOMs and hopefully thereon to the consumers. So just NTPC alone saves nearly 8,500 crore rupees. Go back to your regular slide, don't worry. Gujarat calculation comes to 41 paise per unit saving by swapping coal within their plants, rationalizing the supplies, using some of it in the pithead plants. So each state is now excited and
On which item?
It's a duplication in item number 1 and 2 because you are taking 2%.
not at all.
No.
Explain it.
No,
Explain
so
it.
it basically.
Boss, 30 साल के बाद इतनी basic error करूंगा, Mr. Modi should sack me today itself.
So
I hope I'm not prophetic.
You're starting with 12% interest cost for the DISCOM. Now that, for example, because the state is taking over, state pays 8%. So 4% on is coming down because the difference between DISCOM and the state interest rate. Plus, the state is not charging back the DISCOM on the debt it is taking over. So even
Within 3 years, they have to convert it to a grant. Then that 27,000 crores goes onto the state's balance sheet. So the first 17,000 is the actual reduction in interest cost. The second 27,000 is what moves from DISCOM payment to the state's payment. And then the state has to service it. So they'll have to be prudent in their own working. All the states put together. And actually, in any case, if they don't do that, with this prudence, they will end up subsidizing the power in an indirect form. Do you get me? Ultimately, if the power cost is not increased, because regulators, as he said earlier, don't allow you to pass on your inefficiency into the customer tariff, and should not also. I would be behind their back if they passed on your inefficiency, DISCOM inefficiency. So then the state would have to, in any case, give that 27,000 crore as a subsidy in some form or the other. All the states put together. So it's a win-win case for the states in any case.
So I'll just very quickly go through some of the other initiatives in distribution sector.
Now go fast.
So Deen Dayal Upadhyaya Gram Jyoti Yojana, you have already seen it has an outlay of 75,893 crores. It's for rural electrification, including electrifying the 18,452 villages not electrified as of now. The individual equipment numbers, you have seen the addition of Deen Dayal
Go ahead.
Similarly, on IPDS, focusing on urban infrastructure, outlay of about 65,425,000 crores.
1,40,000 crores only these two schemes. 60% of that as a grant from the government of India, and an additional 15% as a further grant if they perform as per our trajectory and as per the MOU, which we will enter into with each of the states. So they get an additional 20,000 odd crores. 10,000 we calculated if some of them miss some of their targets. Or it's only on some
On
components.
5% for few states.
5% in the special. Okay, yeah, in the special category states you're already giving 90%. Overall about 10, 11,000 crore additional grants they can get. And if the states perform well, I'm happy to go to the finance minister and increase the outlay on both these schemes. And in a performing sector, no finance minister will refuse me funds. Today, of course, in such deep distress, we have inherited the Indian economy. Despite that, the finance minister has committed nearly $10 billion on both these schemes, more than $10 billion.
So if you look at, for example, the village electrification, we already, in the first 6 months, we have already electrified about 2,677 villages. And in the next 1,000 days, we are looking at completing.
By the way, this is nothing that has happened overnight. I wanted to mention it when transmission speed up, power generation capacity increase, all that came up. Also in village electrification. Earlier, the whole process was so lethargic that things would happen at their own pace. So now, I mean, in some states, there were projects which were to be completed 5 years ago, but had not even started. The tendering was not over when I became minister. So we've gone like a absolute ton of bricks on everybody and are monitoring it relentlessly. That's how the transmission lines are getting completed. We're getting environmental clearances, new mines are opening, power generating capacity is coming up, rural electrification is ramping up. Go back to the previous slide. Against 1,405 done last year when we had just taken over, or 1,197 in the year before we took over. This year alone, we will do 7,000 villages. And next year, 11,500. And Prime Minister has given me 1,000 days on 15th August 2015 to complete these 18,500 villages. Our own internal target is to complete it in 7
villages, which will be under distributed decentralized generation. Again, there is a scheme.
What are you doing?
There is a scheme to basically cover all these households, and it's again a very transparent mechanism wherein we will use a reverse auction methodology with standard specifications to buy the equipment. And
by the way, you know, a lot of people are trying to electrify Africa and saying the UN has adopted one of the sustainable development goals as affordable energy access for all by 2030. We are trying to do that by 2022. 24/7 affordable energy access. And hopefully even earlier if I get the discoms supporting me. And the important thing is, go back on the earlier slide. If we are not giving them some small unit, them a little lighting or a mobile charger. So the West thinks that if they give some little bit of lighting and a mobile charger, they've done a great service to the backward or underdeveloped countries. When we are planning for even off-grid solution, we are looking at a 200-watt solution. So it gives them sufficient lighting, fans, mobile charging, a television, small LED television, possibly a LED-driven fridge, refrigeration. So we want them to get the feeling of being connected with electricity. And in the tariff policy, we are providing, otherwise most people don't like to invest in microgrids, that someday the grid will reach there, then you are in trouble. What do you do with your microgrid? So we are providing specifically in the tariff policy that if and when the grid reaches any off-grid solution, it will necessarily have to buy the power from that microgrid. Or if it's a household solution, they'll be allowed net metering. They can take the benefit of the grid as well as continue to use their off-grid solution. So we have thought through the process right down to its last mile security for investors in the power sector, even in the microgrid investment sector.
Something around the policy interventions. In terms of Electricity Act amendment, there is segregation of carriage from content. I think many of you have seen the draft of the act. This will again further help the discoms improve.
Subject to the states wanting it. There's a little bit of resistance from some of the states on this. So it'll of course we'll have to have the states on board to allow the flexibility to have 2 or more operators operating in an area. But I'm fairly confident that once a few states, and I'll get the BJP states on board quickly, start working on this pattern, then we'll have other states emulating it.
Specifically on discoms, again, if you look at the last provision, it gives a mandate to regulators for suo motu proceedings in determination of tariffs. So if there are delays in the part of discom, they can start the proceedings. Again, helps the sector. Tariff policy coming out very, very soon. We are talking about the number of initiatives, including, for example, setting up of coal washery rejects based projects on cost plus basis. So number of areas which are very close to mines but are still dark. Today they generate power, but it's sold outside. Even they can be lit up. Renewable energy
There are
generation.
3 main thrusts, if I may summarize this slide. 1, environment. So whether it's coal washery rejects processing, whether it's using the wastewater that can be reprocessed and used by nearby thermal plants, so that clean water can be used to service the people of India, and processed wastewater goes into thermal plants. Whether it's a compulsory procurement of waste to energy wherever.
Very quickly, talking about renewable energy initiatives, I think all of you know this, the capacity expansion programs. We're talking about this will in turn lead to investments of about $110 billion only in solar and wind, and another $10 billion in other renewable energy sources. Again, a very similar story to how you can increase the overall efficiency to bring down tariff and prices. The famous 4.63 rupees NTPC just got through reverse e-auctions on 4th November
at 1:30 in the night, the bidding stopped. At this price, we could look at much larger capacities in solar. This may be plus or minus. In fact, I personally think if we do a little more innovation on this and little technology improvements, this may fall further.
So the last slide, looking at the uday of investments in the sector, if we estimate from renewables, generation, transmission, etc., we are talking about overall potential of $250 billion, and parts of these were earlier uncertain because the distribution sector was not performing well. But with Uday, we believe that all of these can become very, very attractive investment avenues, and I'm sure you will also look at it likewise. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Anuj.
That was a very exquisite presentation. Can we have the lights, please?
It was a little long, but we wanted to share as much detail as we can.
Lights, please. No, can we have the lights at the hall, please? Yeah. So as the said, we will begin with the
Determine that.
floor is open. As the minister suggested, when it's for the question.
This long tenor assured return at these levels, I see a lot of appetite for these bonds in the marketplace. That's the feedback I've got. In fact, some of the investment bankers also tell me we could take out significant amount of paper in the next 2 or 3 months. There's too much liquidity chasing investment. But I don't know. We'll let the market forces determine that. team. And the support we are getting from the states is outstanding. Not outstanding, but outstanding.
Yes.
Thank you. Just one more thing on the REC and PFC, just if I may ask on that. You clarified that Genco and Transco loans will not be changed in terms of the interest rate pricing, but presuming that the...
Hunters are the play for them, at least in the next 5 years.
See, there is a short-term, medium-term and long-term story. The current situation, and in a way, I'm immensely pleased with it, though some media houses keep writing about the plant load factor. The 12 UMPPs, even if half of them come up, it's 24,000 megawatt. And each megawatt can add about 6 million units. Right? So you're talking 150 billion units of energy. The old plants, we have 30,000 megawatt of over 25-year plants. Even if half of them replace, but they'll replace with supercritical plants now. So you'll have another 30 gigs, which could add another 180 billion units. So I had actually said we should have dinner, but many of people advised me that it's Dhanteras and people have to go back home. But I had forewarned that it's going to be a longish, because I want to once and for all dispel your apprehensions about the power sector.
Thank you, sir, for the great presentation. This is Alpesh from Motilal Oswal. First question is, out of the 4.4 lakh crores funding which were been done by the various financial institutions and all, can you just give us the breakup, how much is done?
Discom loans are being transferred, and that gives them the ability to use that money for new investments.
Perfect. So what would be that number if you can, because there is a lot of confusion related to this particular segment.
We'll work it out and put it out. Make an advisory to let the world know. What? That must be to 2-3 discoms who are really in a bad shape and they must have squeezed their neck.
Please, madam.
Yeah, sir, I'm Hetal Sonpal from Trust Investment Advisors. My question is, will all the states who are signing the MOU, would it be compulsory or...
Tariff to consumers in Mumbai has gone up by 65%.
I'm not, I cannot answer that. That's between the regulator and the Mumbai discoms, which is why I hope all of you can impress upon other parties to support the electricity amendment. In the past, I can't answer you why it did not for 30 years or 40 years. I cannot answer you why it grew at 2%, 3% every year. I can only promise you that we grew at the fastest 32 million tons last year, though we had only 10 months, which was more than the cumulative increase in the 4 years before us. And this year we'll add another 50 million tons. Next year probably even more, another 60 or 70 million tons. So we are ramping up rapidly. Coal India has 2 objectives, and I'm happy to share it with you. One objective is that when a coal Indian will walk out of this room or any place in the world and...
Sir, 2 questions. First is on the interim period between fiscal 16 to fiscal 19, when the SEB will be requiring some support because they would be still incurring losses. Who will fund that?
The DISCOM will have to issue state guaranteed bonds, or the state government can fund it. It's their choice.
So 100% of that, or as per?
Banks are not going to fund it.
Okay. And it will be a clear...
That's the hard budget constraint. Understand that properly, so that you don't have this feeling why tariffs are not being increased. Tariffs cannot be increased. He didn't explain that example as well. It's like I make a mobile phone. Apple makes it efficiently, let's say. Good technology, minimum wastage, minimum labor is enough that even with double the requirement, India has the capacity to service it. The banking crisis, it's not about the 40,000 crores that were to be repaid this year. If they are not repaid in time with SME 1, SME 2, NPA, whatnot, you would have 2 lakh crores of NPAs added to the bank books. You already have 2 lakh crores to the Gencos who are not producing, which could become